Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. I am Muhammad Fakhrul Aiman bin Hanafi. So now our group will present the topic about baik bersama ni Ajil. So let's go. Now, first of all, the introduction. Okay, as we know, Islam is a comprehensive religion, or we call asyumul, menyeluruh. Okay. Basically, Islam has three the important things. Okay, the first is tauhid, akhlak and syariah. Okay, syariah is depends on hukum-hukum, depends on hukum Al-Quran and Al-Hadis, Al-Sunnah. Okay. In syariah we have three major three things is akhlak, akidah and ibadah. Okay, ibadah. So in ibadah has two is ibadah specific on ibadah and a public ibadah. In syariah has three things. It's all about akidah, akhlak and ibadah. Okay, ibadah have two things. It's about ibadah, ibadah to Allah and a public ibadah. Okay, yang umum. Okay, the public ibadah is specific to the economy, social and politic. Okay, for the economy, we should follow the rules about Islamic law. Okay, Islamic economy has been shown in Al-Quran. For example, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, based on the surah, it showed that the Islam economy. For example, Prophet Muhammad SAW and sahabat has economic with in their era depend on Islamic economy. Islamic economy depends on Islamic economy and follow the Islamic law. Okay, next we talk about the definition of baik bersama ni Ajil. Okay, in literally baik bersama ni Ajil mean deferred payment sale. Okay, in technically the baik bersama ni Ajil mean that the sale contract in which the payment of the price is deferred and payable at a certain particular time in the future. A common financial tool in Islamic is the baik bersama ni Ajil. It resembles a conventional promissory note but adheres to Islamic financial term, which forbids charging interest known as a riba in Arabic. So the purpose the baik bersama ni Ajil is to avoid from the riba. Baik bersama ni Ajil is sale and purchase between the lender and the borrower, whereby the lender agree to buy an item or asset from the borrower at a particular price, and the borrower agrees to buy the same item or asset back from the lender at a higher price at the later time. Okay, the increased price reflect both a profit for the lender and the amount that the borrower is actually borrowing. Okay, for the history, Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad (BIMB), which started the operation the baik bersama ni Ajil in 13 May on 1983. They introduced baik bersama ni Ajil financing method in Malaysia. However, some Islamic banking region in the world also introduced this system. Okay, next we go to the evidence of baik bersama ni Ajil. Okay, buying and selling activities is very required in Islam. The baik bersama ni Ajil transaction is a deferred trading business activity that is required to be the same normal trading. The difference between deferred sale and normal sale is that the sale price deferred sale is more expensive than the normal price, and the price of the sale price increase according to the length time of the customer want to delay. The basis of for baik bersama ni Ajil refer to the law based on the following from the Al-Quran Surah Al-Baqarah. The surah explain that buying and selling activities are halal and prohibited if the activity contain the element of usury. Therefore, buying bersama ni Ajil is a mechanism in Islamic buying and selling that preserve 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 the principle and condition of buying and selling in Islamic muamalah. Okay. In another hadith also Rasulullah it was narrated by Aisyah radhiyallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam bought food from the Yahudi with deferred payment, and his he won't switch the iron shirt made from iron. And it's this hadith show that the al-bait bersama ni Ajil, or the sale of good with deferred price, was once practiced by the Prophet himself, who bought food from someone by delay the payment. Okay, based on the hadith show about in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam era also has been the baik bersama ni Ajil system. Okay. From Islamic jurisprudence, scholar agree that they require the purchase and sale of goods with deferred payment. Imam Shafi'i explained that it's okay for a man to sell an item with deferred payment and buy it back from the buyer with a lower cash payment. Okay, from the Imam Malik also requires buying and selling with deferred payment. For Imam Hanafi, anyone who sells something for cash and then delay payment within the specific period, then the law is valid and become a debt.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amin Najib bin Karuddin and I will explain about the pillar of Bait Bithaman Ajil. In Islam, everything must go with the pillars. As for the example, the pillar of a Muslim is the declaration of faith, which is Shahada, Salah, fasting, Zakah, and also pilgrimage, which is Hajj. There is the pillar that will make someone an actual Muslim with faith. Same goes to the pillar of every contract. If one of the pillar does not exist and cannot meet, it cannot be considered as a valid contract. The pillar of Bait Bithaman Ajil, including of seller, buyer, asset or goods, price, and also silver. The seller, in the context of Bait Bithaman Ajil, the seller of the contract is typically a bank or a financial institution that enters into the agreement with the customer. The bank acts as a purchaser of a commodity from the customer, and the customer acts as a seller of that commodity. The bank then agrees to resell the commodity back to the customer at a higher price on a future date, with the difference between the two prices representing the profit margin of the bank. The bank is not acting as an intermediary or an agent in this transaction, but rather as a party to the contract. The second pillar of the Bait Bithaman Ajil is the buyer. In the context of Bait Bithaman Ajil contract, the buyer of the contract is typically an individual or a business. The customer is seeking to purchase a commodity and enters into an agreement with a bank or financial institution, which acts as the seller of the contract. The customer agrees to purchase the commodity from the bank at an agreed upon price on a specific date in the future. The customer is the ultimate buyer of the commodity as they agree to purchase it from the bank at a future date at a higher price than the bank originally paid for it. The bank agrees to purchase the commodity from the customer at the current market price and resells it to the customer at a higher price on a future date. The customer is the one who is interested in the commodity and the one who is going to use it. The bank's role is to act as a financier or the purchase of the commodity. It is important to note that the customer in this case is not borrowing money from the bank, but rather buying the commodity from the bank and agreeing to resell it back at a higher price. The next pillar is an asset or goods. In the context of Baik Bithaman Ajil, the asset or good being financed by the contract is typically a specific items or items that the customer wishes to purchase. This can be a wide range of things including but not limited to vehicles such as cars and trucks, real estate such as houses and land, equipment such as machinery and tools, and also inventory such as raw materials and finished goods. Other tangible assets such as artwork, jewelry, antiques, and the asset good being financed serves as the underlying collateral for the Baik Bithaman Ajil contract. The bank agrees to purchase the asset from the customer at the current market price and then resell it back to the customer at a higher price on the future date. The difference between the two prices represents the profit margin for the bank and the financial aspect of the contract. It is always better to have a detailed inspection and evaluation of the asset or good prior to the Baik Bithaman Ajil contract in order to make sure that the value of the asset is equal to the amount of financing needed and that it complies with the terms of the contract. The next pillar is the price. In the context of Baik Bithaman Ajil contract, the price of the contract is typically made up of two parts: the current market price of the asset or good being financed or a profit margin for the bank. The bank agrees to purchase the asset or good from the customer at the current market price, which is usually determined by a mutual agreement between the bank and the customer or through a professional evaluation of the asset or good. After the bank purchases the asset from the customer, the bank and the customer agree on the future date on which the customer will purchase the same asset back from the bank at a higher price, which is also agreed upon by both parties. The last pillar is its sirah. In Islamic finance, sirah of the contract refers to the wording or formulation of the contract, and it is important aspect of ensuring that the contract is in compliance with the principle of Islamic law. In the case of Baik Bithaman Ajil contract, the sirah of the contract is typically formulated in such a way as to make it clear that the bank is purchasing the asset good from the customer at the current market price and then sell it back to the customer at a higher price on a future date. Okay, now I will explain about the modus operandi of the Baik Bithaman Ajil. Baik Bithaman Ajil is a type of financing used in Islamic banking and finance. It is a contract in which the bank purchases an asset on behalf of the customer and then sells it to the customer at a high price, which is payable over an agreed period of time. The customer makes regular payments to the bank, which includes both the principal and the profit. The modus operandi of Baik Bithaman Ajil is as follows. First is the customer approach the bank and express interest in purchasing a specific asset, example a car or house. Second, the bank purchase the asset on the behalf of the customer and then sell it to the customer at a higher price. This higher price includes a profit margin for the bank. Third, the customer agrees to make regular payments to the bank, which includes both the principal purchase price of the asset and the profit, which is the additional amount charged by the bank. And fourth, the customer becomes the rightful owner of the asset once the full payment is made and the bank is entitled to the profit margin agreed upon in the contract. It is important to note that Baik Bersama Ajil is a contract that complies with the principle of Islamic finance, which prohibits the charging of the interest, which is the riba. So that's all for the pillars and the modus operandi of the Baik Bersama Ajil.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Ammar bin Alugani. So, I am about to present the next topic, which is the application of contract uh, for by Aman bin Ajil. So, the contract is typically used when the financier does not have the necessary funds to pay for the project upfront, but instead they agree to pay the manufacturer in stages as the project progresses. The manufacturer is responsible for the actual construction of the asset, while the financier provides the financing. One key aspect of the contract is that the ownership of the asset being constructed is transferred to the financier at the time of delivery rather than at the time of payment. This means that the financier assumes the risk of any delays or defects in the construction and is also entitled to any benefits that occur from the asset before it is delivered, such as rent or lease payments. It is important to notice that as a type of contract in Islamic finance, by Bithaman Ajil must comply with the principle of Sharia law and to be supervised by an authority that ensure that its operation and transactions are Sharia compliant. Next, I will be discussing about the application of by Bithaman Ajil in the financial institutions. So, first of all, once all the complete documents are submitted, the financier will discuss with the customer on matters such as, at first, the amount of financing supply, second, the customer source of income to determine eligibility, third, the period of financing applied for the agreed profile rate, 5, the rate of takaful coverage applied, 6, the amount of monthly installments of the financing repayment, 7, the guarantee advance, and lastly, individual or joint application. To make it easy to understand, let me give you an example. A financial institution owns an asset such as a car or a piece of equipment, and a customer wants to use the asset. The financial institution sells the asset to the customer for a higher price than the purchase price, and the customer agrees to buy back the asset at a lower price at the later date. The difference between the higher sales price and the lower buyback price represents the profit for the lender, and the customer can use the asset during the time period between the sale and the buyback. After the customer agrees to what was discussed and accepted the offer, the financier will submit the relevant application form. The application form must be submitted to the financier by completing the conditions that have been proposed by the financier based on the list that have been set. Namely, first, complete the application form completely and correctly according to the prescribed format. Next, presenting a property sale and purchase agreement between the client and the property owner of the title deed on the property or spread or block title deed for the purchase of flats, apartments, or condominiums. After that, submit a copy of identified identity card, salary slip, employer declaration letter form, the employer as well as the client's and guarantor income tax form. Next, submit a copy of the advance payment receipt on the purchased property. After that, the confirmation letter is able to provide the remaining balance, which is money more than eligible financing if the price of the property exceeds the amount of financing given. Furthermore, submitting a letter of undertaking to transfer title from the property owner of a developer to the client. Moreover, submit a letter of undertaking from the developer landlord if buying a flat, apartment, condominium, or townhouse that has not yet been built and does not have a strata title deed. Next, letter of consent to mortgage property to finances, government, banks, financial companies, or cooperative. And lastly, submitting a lawyer letters of acknowledgement related to legal matters between clients, property owners, and financiers.
Okay, the last part in the assignment is conclusion. Okay, in conclusion, baik bersama dengan Ajil is a financing mechanism is carried out in accordance with the law of deferred sale and purchase in Islamic law. Therefore, all the condition and principle are the same as the principle of buying and selling in Islamic law. In addition, the pillars of sirah, ijab, and kabul must be implemented in a sincere by between the customer, financial, and property owner. For that, the buy bersama ni Ajil sale and purchase deal must contain a specific akad. So the customer, the customer and the owner should agree each other. So we don't have any issue. Okay, the implemented of baik bersama ni Ajil financing mechanism does not involve the binding of sale and purchase agreement that is based on riba. So baik bersama ni Ajil can avoid from riba. So people, the difficult to buy something when the riba was when we can avoid from riba. Okay. At the same time, the decrease in the profit rate can also be an encouragement to customer to subscribe to all to buy bersama ni Ajal and further proof that Islamic muamalat transaction are actually better than the conventional system. In conclusion, it's clear that the financial mechanism of buy bersama ni Ajal complies with the law of Islamic law and there is no element of usury or riba. So that's all for our group to present the topic baik bersama ni Ajil. Okay, that's all and thank you.